It's impossible today for people to live on outdated income assistance rates where their minuscule buying power has been consumed by inflation. For the past 9 years, the income for singles has been stuck at just $537 a month. Imagine trying to live on that, Mr. Speaker. It's impossible. Adjusted for inflation today, this should be $626. Today is UN Human Rights Day, and signatories to the UN Declaration on Human Rights, like Canada, are supposed to guarantee an adequate standard of living so everyone can afford the very basics of food, clothing, housing, and transportation. My question is, will the Minister of Finance build the necessary funding into next year's budget to ensure income assistance rates are adjusted to reflect the loss of purchasing power to inflation since 2010 for single people and 2014 for families and the disabled? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the member opposite's question because it is it's not a lot of money, Mr. Speaker. We know that. I was proud that in the David Alward government we doubled the amount of what individual recipients received, and the member is right that nothing has happened since then. So the members across, when they were in government, they never increased it, Mr. Speaker. So while I cannot commit to a budgetary line item yet, as we are exploring those budgetary items now, I certainly will commit that it is conversation that will be at the table. We've talked about social development reform, social assistance reform in our platform, and so it will be a discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Fredericton South and Leader of this party.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be tabling a bill soon to amend the Family Income Security Act that, if passed in future, would require the minister to review social assistance rates annually to account for increases in the cost of living, including housing, transportation, clothing, and so on. At the moment, though, nobody receiving social assistance can actually afford those essentials of life. Raising their income to account for the erosion of buying power caused by inflation would be a huge help. The Minister of Finance has said that the government is intending to present a budget with a surplus of $120 million, Mr. Speaker. Given the desperate needs of those living on social assistance, surely the Minister can supply, it's the Minister of Social Development, with the $19 million from his surplus to ease the burden of life for people living on social assistance. It's not their choice, Mr. Speaker. They have no choice. This is how they earn their income. Will the Minister of Finance commit to this, or will he pay Scrooge this Christmas?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the party opposite for his question. What I will commit to is stopping this intergenerational theft that we have. What I will commit to is budgeting for the next generation and not for the next election. What I will commit to is trying to drive a surplus to get down our debt. Our debt, when we take away all the zeros, isn't $14 billion. Let's make it $1,400. Let's say it's $1,400 on a visa. And so when we have an $88 million deficit, it's like paying $8.80 onto a $1,400 visa. We are not flush with cash, but we are absolutely doing what we can to help those in the most need here in New Brunswick. What I can tell you is we're trying to protect the future of all of our programs, be it education, health, social development, all of them. But we've got to do it without going bankrupt, and that is a fact of the matter.